Call the special board meeting to order. Rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Bell?
Here.
Trustee Brewer? Here. Trustee Williams? Trustee Jasinski? Here. Trustee Todd? Here. Trustee Williams? Here.
Okay, before we get into this special meeting, again, I'd like to reiterate, excuse me, that this particular meeting was called to order, and also this is I see a lot of motions that are going to be presented, and a lot of these things weren't discussed ahead of time, and I'm opposed to that particular part of it. We talk about transparency all the time. It's been thrown around since the new board came in and before that. But to have because some of these things that are on here, I don't even understand what they mean. Never had a chance to talk about them. But this board wants to pass them tonight. For what reason, I have no idea what it means and why we're doing that. But as we go through it, I'll express my concerns because there's some things that I don't understand I never had a chance to talk. But before I get into that, I'd like to find out from the board, when did the board discuss these particular motions to bring it to the lawyers for them to put it into a ordinance or a resolution? When did the board have the meet to do that? Does anybody on the board want to expound on that part of it?
I can address number 5. It was done at the last meeting when Mr. McGrath was sitting in the audience, and I asked him when it was stated that we weren't going to be able to pay bills because we don't have a budget passed. I asked him how we can get around that, and he said that we could create an ordinance, a stopgap ordinance. So he was sitting right there, and I asked him to prepare that, and everybody was here. So nobody objected to it. So that one I can address.
Any of the other ones that are on here? I mean, any of the other motions that are in here that was asked to prepare ordinances or resolutions? So the lawyers just did this on their own. There was no meeting. There's nobody to talk to the lawyers to ask them to prepare these resolutions, statement or whatever. So no one on this board. So the lawyers just did this on their own. Okay, so I'm asking for the record, the attorney is here. So I'm asking the attorney who discussed these particular ordinances and resolutions that were prepared by you, prepared by the Olson Sturck Law Firm. Who discussed to have these resolutions and ordinances prepared?
Is that working?
That's right.
Did you turn it on?
Hold until the green light.
Mayor, to answer your question as far as conversations or preparing what's on the special meeting agenda, as far as the employment agreement, I believe that was discussed in executive session at the last meeting, and there was follow-up to that based upon the interview with Mr. Williams. The ordinance authorizing the expenditures pending passage of the annual budget appropriations ordinance, that was also brought up at the last meeting to allow the village to make payroll and pay its bills and to continue on until you pass your next budget. And as far as the resolutions for Dr. Straughters, that was at the direction of John Murphy, who was appointed by the village board as special legislative counsel.
Okay, my question that you, I'm sure I may have came in, is we never discussed this. These orders were passed, I'm sorry, these orders were penned by you guys, but usually when we do things, we have a committee meeting, we talk about it, discuss it, go back and forth, and then at that time I asked the board, do you want to put this on the regular meeting to have it voted on? That's usually the protocol that we've always done since I've been a trustee.
I have a question. We've been questioned a lot lately about whether or not we're doing things in the right order. All we did was call the meeting to order and do a roll call. We're having discussion on these particular items. Doesn't discussion follow a motion and a second? I'm just wondering, because we're all being called to order on how our parliamentary procedure is being questioned. So we're having discussion now on items that are on the agenda. So I think we should have discussion as the agenda items hit the table, in my opinion.
Thank you for your opinion, I appreciate that. What I'm asking is why these particular items, how they made it to be voted on and never discussed at an open board meeting to ask questions. I'm sure that, you know, we can come back and forth and go back and forth on how we got to that point. But there's nothing in any agenda to discuss how we were going to do the expenditures, what are the expenditures, what appropriations are we voting on, and how much money are we talking about. And that's just one of the things. As far as the agreement, as far as the employment agreement, I just got a copy yesterday of the contract. We never discussed that. We never talked about it. It was never brought to this board about it. I mean, we talked about hiring. No one said anything about the meat of the particular contract. No one mentioned, they asked the gentleman how much he felt he should get paid, but there was nothing in it about what the contract entails, and we never discussed that. Since we want to, you know, it's not a matter of trustee of going back and forth. It's a matter of proper protocol. Now, yes, I mean, before you guys vote on to do everything, I'm just asking a question, and I think the people here need to know how we got to this point, because I don't even know. This is the second time this has happened. The first time was on the 21st of May. Here it is again. We have a meeting to vote, not to discuss, but a special meeting to vote and to appoint. And never had that discussion. Yes, we vetted a person, but we never talked about the meat of that contract. We never talked about how much it would be. We never talked about how much, what are we talking about appropriations? How can you vote appropriations or vote on appropriations without a budget? So how much money are we appropriating? Just until we feel as if, you know, at that particular point in time, we stop, we don't pay this and we pay this and we don't. That's not how anyone does business, and that's not how business is supposed to be handled. So, and then as the lawyer just stated, that you had another law firm come in, and on their opinion, they said the contract is null and void. Not the opinion of any court, just the opinion of a person that's a lawyer, says that the contract is null and void, and let's go with that. Those are the things that I'm asking. How can we, as this board, vote on something to that matter? How can we vote on that? And we never even talked about some of these things that are here. Statement of work. I mean, it's just a lot of things, but those are just my comments. It was nothing that I'm asking you guys to vote on. I'm just making comments. Because we've always talked about transparency. I don't see it. So with that being said, start with item number 3. Motion to approve the employment agreement between the Village of Sauk Village and Christopher Williams.
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Trustee Williams.
Mayor.
And second by Trustee, Bell. Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, question. So again, I want to reiterate how last week we did have an executive session where we did discuss potential filling of a spot with the candidate, and there was no, as far as I know, there was no agreement upon salary. There was a range, and that was it. We didn't discuss an exact figure amount or benefits as a board. At least I wasn't a part of that meeting. And so therefore that I will vote no on this because I don't know what's going on, because I didn't agree to this.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Bell?
Yes.
Trustee Brewer?
Yes.
Trustee Grant?
No.
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
Trustee Todd?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Motion to approve an ordinance authorizing the recordings of board meetings.
I'd like to table that motion, please, Mr. Mayor.
Is that a motion or you just saying you want to
I'd
take?
like to table it. A motion to table, if you have a
Okay,
motion to
is there a
table.
second?
Yes.
Moved by trustee Williams, second by trustee Bell, to table the motion to approve an ordinance authorizing the recordings of board minutes. Recordings of board meetings. Any questions? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Brewer?
Yes.
Trustee Grant?
Yes.
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
Trustee Todd?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Bell?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Number 5, a motion to approve an ordinance authorizing the expenditures pending passage of annual budget and appropriations ordinance. This is the one I do not understand. I don't know how you can, okay, I just don't understand. Okay, well, I have a motion, there's a motion for that. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved. Second.
Moved by trustee Todd, second by trustee Jasinski. Any questions?
Question. Mr. Mayor, so last week, trustee Williams did ask Attorney McGrath, how do we proceed if we do not pass a budget? And he gave the response that, Illinois the last 2 years has pretty much gave a stopgap budget, basically. However, we didn't discuss that. That was just a question and an answer. We didn't, as a board, decide to say, hey, well, we should do this because of X, Y, Z. Personally, I think that we should not be doing this because all we're doing is kicking the can down the road. There is some disagreements between what the board and what the mayor wants, and therefore I think that there's no point and kick this can down the road. The finance director gave us a budget that he proposed that was balanced based on his recommendations, and I don't see what's the purpose of not passing that budget as it stands. So therefore, why do we need to do this?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
Okay, to address your concern, Mr. Grant, we've had 3 very lengthy, heated discussions over the budget. There was a 4th meeting scheduled, which was canceled by the mayor. It never took place. And that is why having a village administrator will be to our advantage, because the village administrator can immediately start tackling this budget, and hopefully we'll have a budget soon. The budget that the mayor wanted to present did not include the salary for a village administrator. And this board decided a long time ago, this current board decided and voted on a village administrator, which thankfully we've appointed today. So in answer to your question, we will need a stopgap ordinance so we can continue to make payroll, because at the rate we were going, we were not going to get a budget passed in the timely fashion.
Oh, Trustee Williams, to respond back to your response, I will say that we had plenty of time. I believe we had a meeting on May 21st where you guys passed 14 different ordinances that we could have put that on the agenda and discussed then. Therefore, we had plenty of time. I think your priorities were messed up, but that's just my opinion.
That's your opinion.
Oh, that's just my opinion.
Call the question.
That's just my opinion. So therefore,
Call the question.
Absolutely.
So therefore, Mr. Mayor, I don't feel like we need to do this. There's always going to be some disagreement, and then how is a village administrator on day one going to come in and say,
Call the
this is what
question,
we do,
please,
these do
Madam
not
Clerk.
need?
Let him finish,
Williams.
It instructed me to call
Okay.
the question. Now,
Not
you asked for it, though,
Twice.
there's no more discussion.
Thank you, ma'am.
So we're waiting for the mayor.
The problem I have, and I'm sorry, I understand that, but I don't know what amount of money we're talking about. I don't know, but when I'm looking at it, you're passing an appropriations without a budget. You're passing to appropriate money, and we don't even know how much money we're talking about.
That's a blank check.
So I really don't understand. I don't want to put this village and these residents in harm's way.
That is not what
But
it
that's what you're
says.
doing. You're actually.
Mr. McGrath, can you explain
please.
it?
Attorney
I'm talking now.
You're out of order.
I'm not out of order. I'm talking now. And I don't understand.
Point of order.
I do not understand, and I'm not gonna sit here and put this village in that type of harm's way to pass a blank check
It's not.
that the board has the chance to appropriate, and we don't even know how much we're talking about. We have no idea how much money we're talking about appropriating until the board feels that, well, we won't pay this one, but we'll pay this one. I mean, really, that's all I'm asking. Usually appropriations are passed, or appropriation are passed after a budget. So you have an amount. There's no amount here. It says pending the passage of an annual appropriation, authorize necessary expenditures. Who determines what a necessary expenditure is? That's all I'm saying. This wording here is what I have a problem with. Now, if you don't want me to bring that to the public, then okay, fine. But I don't understand what a authorized necessary expenditures upon the basis of appropriations for the preceding fiscal year, pending the passage of annual appropriation orders for the current fiscal year. You guys do fine. I need somebody to explain that to me, because I don't know, that doesn't mean anything.
He's right there.
Okay, but you all came up with this. The lawyers didn't come up. I asked the question, who came up with this verbiage?
Williams did.
Who came up with this verbiage?
Mr. Attorney,
okay,
would you address the mayor,
Mr. McGrath, can you
please?
please explain that to me? What does this mean?
The proposed ordinance is a stopgap ordinance just to continue how you're currently operating, so you can make payroll and pay the bills to your vendors and make other bills that the village is obligated to make without a budget in place. My office put the language together. We put it together for other municipalities through the years. I would note that people in this village keep commenting and stating that there's a budget and appropriation. There's some confusion. It's based on the last appropriation budget that was passed by the village when we weren't around. It's two separate systems. You have to either operate under the budget system or the appropriation system. You have always operated under the budget system. We included the appropriation in the ordinance because, based upon your past ordinance that you passed last year, stated budget and appropriation, but it's nonsensical because you can't operate under both pursuant to state statute. So it's to allow the village to continue with their financial obligations until the board and the mayor and the village administrator get together, work out the items on the budget, and pass the budget.
Okay, my question still, necessary expenditures. Who makes that determination?
It's a continuation of how the village has been operating. Just as 3 weeks ago, whoever considered what was necessary and proper to make payments, it continues on. Just as the village has been operating. It's the status quo until you finalize and approve your next budget.
So are we operating on the last budget that was just for year 2018-19? Because we can't operate on 2019-20. So are we operating on the expenditures we had?
Correct. You're operating under the budget that you still have in place. It's just an extension of that budget until you pass your new budget. The new budget has been passed.
Okay, so we're operating on, okay, then I appreciate you saying that. We're operating on that particular budget. Correct. That particular budget does not have an administrator in that budget. There is no administrator position, and there's no pay for that particular position. So how, if we're operating under that, how do we add to that? How do we add more to that budget? Because now what you just did is add more money to that particular budget that didn't exist.
Well, it's not me, it's the village board, first
Okay.
of all.
I'm just
Secondly,
saying
I think if you look at the next couple items on the special meeting agenda, I think it will take care of.
Oh, so, okay, so now with that, okay, now I understand what you're saying. So we're gonna take this away, and we're gonna add that in place of that. It's basically, because that's what the next two things are about. So the next two things is to take away a position and add this one to that. But that's not how you, I mean, if it's not in the budget, if that position's not in the budget, but you're gonna operate under that position, now we're talking out of both sides. Because if it's not in there, it's not in there. But if you decide to want to do that and put it in there, then we can do that because we're gonna get rid of this. Okay. All right, I just wanted to say. All right, any other questions?
That's kind of like the job that was at the fire department, correct?
I see now what it is. No, you're not asking, you're making a statement. That's not a question. You're making a statement. No, that's okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Call the question.
That's fine. I see now what it is.
Mayor has to ask.
Because he mumbled it. What did he say?
That's fine. I understand.
No, he doesn't.
I understand.
They've asked for a roll.
Okay, okay, call the roll.
Thank you. Trustee Grant?
No.
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
Trustee Todd?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Bell?
Yes.
Trustee Brewer?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 6, motion to approve a resolution declaring the employment contract of the Village of Sauk Village human resource consultant void and Amdenito.
We got some Italians in here.
So moved.
So moved. You got?
Second.
Okay.
Moved by Trustee Todd, second by Trustee Williams.
No.
Brewer, okay, Trustee Todd, second by Trustee Brewer. Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Again, so Rosenthal, Murphy, Koblenz, Donahue, Special Legislative Council, it's their recommendation and it's their opinion that this contract is pretty much void. Again, what makes his opinion count for our village board and our government, and to say that this contract is void? This contract was put in place by the previous board, so I'm not sure how this board, in the opinion of the Special Legislative Council, can make this contract void. Also, what facts does he have in order to say that this contract does not count? And also, since he did some work, obviously, where are the invoices from this work? Because last thing I heard or remembered, some trustees were saying that we would not start a special investigation until it's brought before the board first. So obviously, something started and finished because they came to this conclusion. So that's just all I have as a comment.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
Trustee Todd?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Bell?
Yes.
Trustee Brewer?
Yes.
Trustee Grant?
No.
Motion carried. Motion to approve a resolution concerning the statement of work of the village human resource consultant. I don't understand, because if you don't have one, then what's the statement of work?
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Trustee Williams, second by Trustee Todd. Any questions? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Todd?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Bell?
Yes.
Trustee Brewer?
Yes.
Trustee Grant?
No.
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 8, public comment. All questions and comments must be directed to the mayor. And each question is in regard to the special meeting only. And I'll answer the questions at the end of the comments. Please state your name. Oh, press it until it's green.
Janice Clark. This may be the first meeting that I've attended physically. That doesn't mean I don't watch it. I don't watch how you new five are acting. You are not acting in the best interest of the village. And these are supposed to be just on questions on what's happening at this meeting. Well, I'll ask them. Number one, who decided on a person named Christopher Williams to be what? A motion to approve the agreement, employment agreement between the village and Christopher Williams. For what purpose?
To run the day-to-day operations.
Wait, hold it. No, I'll answer the question.
Okay. And second part of that is who decided on this person? Next one. Approve an ordinance authorizing the recording of the meeting. I thought she was doing that. Marva, aren't you recording the meeting? Okay, Mr. Mayor, that was my question. I don't know why everybody jumped on that first, passed it, and I'll second that. Does the audience or the village know what the heck you're talking about? No. It sounds silly. The way you ran this meeting is ridiculous, voting on things. This is just a special meeting. These things haven't even been discussed as usual at a committee meeting, which is supposed to be after this. What the hell are you voting on things for? All right, number, whatever, 5. These are all silly. These are all just silly things. Approve the ordinance authorizing expenditures pending passage of an annual budget. You're gonna buy stuff before you get the money? I mean, that's what it is. And for what? And for how much? That's fine. There's only 2 more things, and I'll mess with those also. Motion to approve a resolution declaring the employment contract of the Village of Human Resources consultants. So you're going to go against what the person came to a board meeting from the village's insurance company and says, you need a human resource person. You can't do without it. You need it. So what did you do? Not you guys, but the board that was in, except Linda and Grant, the board passed a resolution to hire one. You guys decided you want to move the money to add an administrator to get rid of Derek. We're not stupid. Thank you.
This one was worried about the parking lot, but it was not the sign it goes in the middle. They painted the parking lot.
Judy Castier. I'd like to go back in time to Towers, when Mayor Towers was in, and remind people of a few things. People that are here tonight, people that said things and did things, and now tonight they're changing their mind. Back when Towers was in, and we had a trustee that resigned because he was moving, Mayor Towers appointed Francine Anderson to that man's seat. At that time, after he did it, there was a lot of talk about the illegal way it was done, that Francine Anderson was illegal as a trustee because the board was never given the chance to talk about it and give their opinions. And the leader of that was Trustee Burgess. He said she was illegal. We didn't even get to talk about it. We're the trustees. We're supposed to have a word. And all of a sudden, Trustee Burgess is now a mayor, and he forgets those things. Nobody is given any chance at who's in, who's out, decisions are being made. Transparency is talked about, but it doesn't exist in some instances. People were hired without the board. Money was spent without the board. We've got all kinds of things to support what is being said. The plan group was put in order during Mayor Tower's time, and the plan group is the one that started with the taping of all the meetings. And one of those tapes was the picture that was on internet with Mayor Towers swearing in Francine Anderson, and the caption about how illegal that was. And that was written by Joseph Wisawati. And so we have records to show what we're saying is not a lie. You have to make, you're sitting here talking about the budget. Things were in the budget that we didn't even know about. You want to know why we say there's no transparency? What happened to that lawyer that you wanted to hire? You have a problem with Olson and Sturck and the amount of money that we owe them. And yet you weren't thinking about the residents or our tax dollars or anything when you were going to hire in somebody at $600 an hour? I have been coming up to this podium for 2 years talking about HR being overpaid. And you didn't want to hear it. And now it's being brought to a stop. Now all I can say is I commend you, trustees. At least you're trying to get us back on track.
You don't even know what that's
Kathy Betcher, I commend you, trustees, for doing what you can to bring this village back to where we need to be. I think that if I understand correctly, the money that we save from the HR and whatever else has been removed from employment will cover our village manager. And with that, the village manager may be able to try and get a grocery store in here. Why didn't the mayor and Mr. Wisawati, when he was here, act as an with the village and the grocery store, so that we didn't lose the only grocery store we had in town? Are you going to go out and try and get a grocery store here? I don't think so. At least the village manager can do that. Or are we going to get more?
Talk to the people.
You know, I wasn't rude to you guys.
Talk to the people.
Sorry.
Okay.
Wow. I'm trying to talk to you and
Okay, I understand. Go ahead.
But I lost my train of thought now that people are so rude. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Charles Pondexter. I'm looking at all these items on here, and what boggles me is, the mayor asked which trustee went to the lawyer to put all this together and who did it. If you don't respect the man, respect the position. I mean, if you did this, just say you did it and move on with it. Just don't. I respect all of you up there. I have no problem with none of you up there. I may not agree with what you guys do, but I respect you. But the thing is, the mayor asked who put this together, who went to the attorney. It's like breaking the lamp at home. Mother, who broke the lamp? You gonna lie about it? Everybody get whipped or somebody confess who broke the lamp? Let's say you broke the lamp. I went to the attorney. We did this trustee and I. And it's over with. Don't hide anything, okay? Thank you.
Talk to the
I don't know why they're so concerned. They're asking if you're scared. I'm not scared of anything. Am I ready? Thank you. No, this gentleman back here is talking. The article that Ms. Cast was referring to, I have a copy of it, and I do want to read it word for word. This was written, as she said, by Mr. Wisawati, and this was regarding what the mayor said back when Mr. Towers did what he did. Trustee Burgess said, following the meeting, he didn't even consult with the board nor ask our consent. State law states the mayor must seek the advice and consent of the board. Now, I guess he's forgotten all that, but I want to commend this board for trying to correct some of the things that have been done in the last 2 years. You've stood up to the challenge. It needs to be addressed. We know there's things that are wrong, and it needs to be addressed. And thank you, board, for doing that.
Frank Williams here. For the benefit of the people that do what I did, go to the library, you have it here. Ask the director to let you see the file and how this village was formed in 1954. Tell you what the rules and regulations is to how this board and how this village is run. I don't care what somebody sit back here and talk about. They can talk because of the fact right now. Things have changed. Let's understand this. These things have changed, but whether you like it or not, it has changed. We didn't like it when it was the other way, but we didn't get up here and act the fool every night. We didn't do that. So what I'm saying to you is this. Why don't you, if you don't understand it, that once the 4 trustees or 5 trustees is up there, the mayor sitting in the middle, that is his authority. If 3 trustees say yes and 3 says no, he said whichever is on his mind. Other than that, that's all he can do. Now, like that or not, but that is the way Sauk Village is run. I'm not talking about no other village, but that's the way Sauk Village is run. If you got any doubts about it, meet with me at the library and I will prove it to you.
Okay, only thing I will respond on, because everything else was opinions, and everybody's entitled to those opinions. The first one was who decided on Mr. Williams? The board did. Unbeknownst to me, I know that he came in for a second interview, but I know that was their final decision. But obviously, it is their final decision because they brought it to light tonight. That being said, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Jasinski, second by Trustee Bell. I'm sorry, Trustee Todd, and second by Trustee Bell. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. We'll be back in 20 minutes.
Okay, so we have, okay. No, because I think
Yeah.